he too believes that this was concocted in a laboratory and was sent out on the population at large. So there's another expert who has looked at emerging viruses for all his life, and he too believes that that this is what happened. It is amazing, isn't it, Stephen?
Well, absolutely, and I think the thing that people have got to start thinking about are the ramifications, George. For instance, can everybody that's listening to this broadcast worldwide even imagine the fact of the fury that's going to be exhibited throughout the nations of the world when they find out that this was a genetically altered biological weapon that was intentionally released? Now, those are my words.
Is there anybody honest enough to say those things? And I'm not talking about you and Alex, but a scientist. Will he say it?
Yeah, there are, and I think the thing that people have got to understand is they're saying it now. Alex and I are both getting independent reports of multiple thousands dead in Mexico, even to the point where doctors have emailed me, and some of them had to go through a second party saying they're being forbidden. They have to write on the death certificate that they died of pneumonia, cardiac arrest, everything but the flu. Now, here's something that people should do, George, and this is really critical. On my website, Steve Quayle, QUAYLE.com, they need to go and basically type in my search engine for Basson, Basson, Wouter Basson, because the question is, if this strikes largely the Hispanic population only, then it is my cue, and I'll go public and scream it at the top of my lungs, that this is a race/ethnic-specific bioweapon that's being beta tested in the field. I believe that when Janet Napolitano refused to close the borders, at the same time, of course, making all veterans, quote, potential terrorists and putting the rifle sights on their forehead.
You are going out on a limb on this one, Stephen.
Yeah, I know I am. Let me just share this about going out on a limb. That's where the fruit is. When I say the fruit, I don't mean the fruit in the context of, somebody that doesn't have an understanding. George, with the amount of research that Alex and I have done, it's in the literally hundreds of thousands of hours. As you know in the email I sent to you, there are a lot of people in I would say this, positions of ultimate authority that have made sure that, look, I can't come up with this stuff, okay? Even as a fictional novel writer and as a researcher, some of the stuff is so far over the...
Well, it is bizarre, and I asked Gary right in our last hour. He did not know, but it is bizarre that all the deaths so far seem to be in Mexico.
Absolutely.
Even though this flu strain is popping up all around the planet.
Right, and see, this is the thing, though. If I can identify a genetic marker, and I'm speaking as a bioweapons engineer, I can absolutely design a pedigree virus that will attack whatever specific target or target group I want. And this is something that should make everybody sit up and take notice. Now, here's the deal, George. I just said, for the record, if I start seeing, and we have just nothing but massive reports of that, then there's a history. That's why I'm telling people, look, don't just, Alex and I always tell people, go and look at the research that we spend blurry-eyed hours in the midnight or early morning to research this stuff, and then watch what the rest of the world is saying. Well, I maintain that travel and commerce are going to come to a screeching halt.
I agree with that. And let's get your take, Alex.
Well, let me just be clear here. I believe the globalists have the potential to launch a race-specific designer bioweapon, and this could be that. I don't know that that's the case. Talking to doctors and scientists and virologists, Mexico City is so polluted. There's so many toxins in the environment that many mainline studies show that can accelerate a normal virus.
Well, and some believe this came from a U.S. farm in Mexico where they dumped pig waste.
Well, but I mean, just expanding on that, you have a population of 30-plus million people in Mexico City and in the metro area. They're breathing all these toxic fumes. They have all these dioxins in their blood, just like in China where these outbreaks happen, and it debilitates the body. So that may be why we've seen... And clearly, it's a lot more than 150-something deaths. I mean, I've confirmed that from doctors in Mexico. So I agree with Steve on that. They're covering up the severity. And so that's why they say everything's fine, but everybody's got to leave Mexico. I talked to Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, of course, who you interview.
She was whisked out of Mexico today, wasn't she?
Yeah, that's right. She was down in Monterrey at the big medical center, one of the finest medical centers in the world, at a nearby five-star hotel for a medical conference. She's a medical doctor, for those that don't know. And they were told, you get on a plane or we're going to forcibly put you on a bus tomorrow morning, and all foreigners have to leave, and there's no outbreaks in Monterey. So they're taking this very, very seriously. So that's the issue. That's what I'm saying. You get between 15,000 and 36,000 deaths, depending on the year, in the United States. You get even more than that in Mexico because they have debilitated population and poor people that can't get to medicine. So if you're having all these hundreds of thousands of deaths worldwide from regular flus, a new strain.
Sure.
Why are they acting like this is the end of the world?
I know. That is absolutely true, because if they were to simply say, oh, my God, 36,000 people die a year from the flu in the United States alone, this is a disaster, everybody would panic.
Exactly. So I don't blame the controlled, dumbed-down.
We have more people die in car accidents, I think, don't we?
No, we do. It's hundreds of thousands. But, so, what we have here is, you can say that controlled corporate media is dumbed down and stupid and following, the latest OJ story, and I agree with you. But as for governments, they either know this is super bad and are covering it up, they either released it and know it's super bad and are covering it up and are using this as a martial law takeover smokescreen, or they know it's not really bad and they're just hyping it because governments everywhere, including Mexico on the verge of collapse, needs this as a unifier. And most of the sociologists looking at this, and many Mexicans I'm speaking to in Mexico, believe the government is hyping it and using it, and may have even released it to stop revolution and get people's minds off of all the government corruption and what's happening. Now, that said, when Steve talks about race-specific bioweapons, we have the September 2000 PNAC document, Rebuilding America's Defense.
And what is that exactly?
That was put out by Dick Cheney and the neocons, and he says in there, we could have race-specific bioweapons as a politically useful tool. Then we have the fact that the AIDS virus, and we have the patents on it, was produced by the U.S. government. That's why it's so hard for Northern Europeans to get it, but easy for Africans and others to get it, because they have the couplers for the virus to plug into, and because it is engineered, that's why even when it mutates, it still stays lethal. And then I wanted to read a quote from Defense Link, U.S. Department of Defense. You Google DOD Secretary of Defense William S. Cohen briefing, and this is up on Infowars.com right now. Now listen to this quote from his briefing in 1997.
You don't make this up.
No. This is April 28th, 1997. You can just Google William S. Cohen bioweapons. Now listen to this, and it'll come up. Okay. It says scientists in their laboratories trying to devise certain types of pathogens that would be ethnic specific so that they could just eliminate certain ethnic groups and races. And others
Amazing.
And others are designing some sort of engineering, some sort of insects that can destroy specific crops. Others are engaging even in eco-type terrorism, whereby they can alter the climate, set off earthquakes, volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. Now, are we seeing, and folks, I don't get into the far-flung stuff, but are we seeing in Mexico City a 6.0 earthquake? Are we seeing this breakout in Mexico City? Are we seeing some type of end war, some type of future war? Now I'm not saying that's what's happening. All I'm saying is, if the vice president's saying this, before he's vice president, former Secretary of Defense at the time, Dick Cheney, if the Secretary of Defense Cohen is saying this at Army.mil, at Defense, it's actually DefenseLink.mil, if all of this is going on, we have to address it. And now the White House admits, oh, yeah, we're going to terraform with chemtrails, they don't call it that, to save us from global warming, when the science shows it actually increases global warming, and NASA admits 20% of the Earth's 20% darker now, and they have satellite photos of whole continents covered by the chemtrail spraying. All I'm saying is these people are out of control. They're using this to get more control, whether it's real, whether it's hype, whether it's about to mutate, as the CDC is saying that it will probably mutate to something more dangerous. They are mobilizing. They have declared for the first time in decades a environmental medical alert in Mexico, in the U.S., in Europe, in Russia, but the executive orders have now been executed. They have now been implemented where we are officially under martial